I'd like to take you through a reflection of my journal in creating a family 3D printing activity. This is the question I asked as a parent, an educator, and an education student. I reflected a great deal about how I can be more involved in my education. So, how can we involve families in developing children's digital literacies? I, like many other parents, have read with my children at night before they go to bed. This is a common and well-known parent-child activity intending to improve traditional literacy, although it may not be enough. With new literacies or digital literacies now a focus in education, what has been done to involve parents or families in digital literacies? What are digital literacies? Well, broadly defined, the ability to navigate the digital world, or more concrete or specifically by Hagerman in 2017, are all the skills, strategies, dispositions, and mindset that we need to participate in conversations, whether online or elsewhere, to make meaning from and to communicate meaning with the text in all other forms. So although there's limited research involving parents in digital literacy, there's much written around involving parents in their child's traditional literacy, and it can be suggested some of the same advantages and recommended strategies may be applied. There should be advantages of family involvement in different literacy activities, being that families bring to their experience practiced methods of cooperation and communication, systems of shared beliefs and values, and recognized motivations and agendas for participation, as literacy happens at home. Well, what will this look like? Well, evidence suggests that the most salient types of parental involvement is involvement that relates to achievement, results in socialization around the goals and purposes of education, and provides adolescents with useful strategies that they can use in semi-autonomous decision-making. It seems like a very complex process that, I think it's very important that as parents and as families get involved. This led to my next question: what activities can parents utilize to develop their children's digital literacies? So I created a family 3D printing activity that I actually posted on YouTube, that I will put in the comments of this YouTube video as well, that to provide a link if you'd like to watch that activity. But who was the audience? And I really had to think about that as I was doing a video to parents and children. I thought between the ages of 6 and 15 that this would work the best, really revolving around family digital literacies. And, 1 to 2 children is really ideal. Not being said that you can do it with 3, but maybe just doing 1 at a time. Materials, so different materials. And the big one there is access to a 3D printer, and just letting parents know that there are 3D printers out there that you can get access to, whether it be universities or colleges, and even some libraries. More private makerspaces are occurring as well, what's called Makerspace, where you can go and design and create different things. The University of Ottawa was a great example, on Sundays from 11 to 5. So what were the activity guidelines? Well, at the end of the parent-child activity, we wanted the child and sometimes even the parents be able to critically reflect and inquire prior to beginning on questions or concerns that they may have around the project. Be able to sign up for an account on Tinkercad and have a better understanding of how to create a secure username and password. Navigate and understand basic design fundamentals through Tinkercad, and design and create an object that can be printed, and print a 3D object on a 3D printer and have the basic of understanding of how a 3D printer works. And finally, share their experience, processes, and product online with others. So what did the procedures look like? Well, I broke it down to 8 steps, as you can see. Step 1, reflect and write down questions and concerns. Step 2, so step 1 is your reflection. Step 2 is really the inquiry. Research your questions, including access to a 3D printer. Step 3 is sign up for Tinkercad. Step 4 is the Tinkercad tutorials. and explore. And the explore was key here, is where you take the time to really work through Tinkercad, find out how it works, and this you can do collaboratively or individually in sharing ideas or things that they learn. Step 5 is deciding what to design and create on Tinkercad, and it's really important that the child designs what they want to design. Step 6 is finding a 3D printer in your area and learning how to download to print. And at this point to step 7 is where you'll need that SD card, where you need to print your 3D design. In step 8, really sharing with others online. We shared ours online through Instagram. I shared it as well as my son. And not only did we share the final product, we actually shared Instagram post on the process as well. So what is the maker movement? Well, broadly defined, is the creative production of artifacts and finding physical and digital forms to share the processes and products with others. When we're thinking about the pedagogies that were used, really the maker movement focuses on learning, is on the process and the product, really not the tools. When I designed the activity, I really thought about what are the core practices of personal digital literacy are by Coyer, Castick, and Quinn. And you can see in my steps that I do a little bit of this of, I start with reflection, inquire, collaborate and discuss, and participate and create. With my son, I did get around to reflecting again about the process and what we learned. And these core practices created by Coyer, Castick, and Quinn is really a framework that integrates inquiry-based learning, cognitive learning, connective learning, and design thinking as well. The other things that I did do, place-based pedagogy that stems from child's interest to engage in becoming placemakers, designers, and text makers. And you can see that in the makerspace and the maker movement as well as in the design that I created for this activity, because I really wanted to make sure that it was something that my child wanted to do, as well as I let them choose what they wanted to design. So what are the limitations? Well, the digital divide and digital inequalities, as discussed in Collin et al. 2016. While socioeconomic status will affect access as well as parents' digital literacy. So the generational gap as well. So, parents may not have the same digital literacy skills that the generation does today. And further, if it's not happening at school, then, it's more than likely not going to happen at home. Because there are present tensions between making and formal education in the classroom, as described by Halverson and Sheridan in 2014. So it led to a lot of more questions as, if we know that literacy happens at home, but we're still struggling with it at school, creating more activities like this, it would be really important. And, what will that look like? How do we make lesson plans around this? Really that mindset, how do we change the mindset of educators, of families, and really get it to become a norm that we work on families' digital literacies, not just traditional literacies, where, reading a book with your child seems like a normal practice, but taking your child to create a 3D object isn't. Just something to think about. I just want to take a couple minutes and just reflect on the journey that I went through with my son, Riley, in creating this 3D object. And, that first couple steps where we, wrote down the questions we had and did some inquiry about those questions. it was interesting to go through those steps before we went through the project, and it allowed us to be more informative when we did begin the project. But I'll tell you that the problem solving skills that we encountered along the way, and the perseverance, and we began the design, and we didn't actually we were going to get a bearing for the middle, but nothing on the outside. And when we started thinking about it, well, we need weight on the outside, and what weight do we want to use? And we wanted it to be unique, so we decided to use and we had seen this idea somewhere else where to use a couple nickels as the weights on the outside. So we had to research what was the dimensions of a nickel. Not only that is what were the dimensions of the bearing that we were going to use. There's many different bearings out there in sizes and shapes. With our family business, we were able to get them quite easily, but we needed to look at what the OD and the ID, so the inside diameter and the outside diameter, and what the height was of the bearing and the nickels. And when we started to print, we learned and some things in that process as well, as it was too big. There was no way it was going to fit in our hands. And then we printed it, and the middle started messing up, because when you print, you want to say if you're going to need supports, and we didn't put supports, so it wasn't going to it had to rest on something that we could peel off after. But that was something that we had to go through and learn. And then the third time we printed it a little bit smaller, but we had messed up our nickel holes, and they weren't big enough. So we had to really think of precision and measurements, which really developed some other skills as well. And finally, when we printed it, we had to figure out how we were going to get the quarters in there, the nickels in there. We used crazy glue in the end, and even in the end, we have this awesome spinner, but there's certain things that we've learned that I'm hoping that my son will take on and do another project moving forward. Anyways, I'd like to thank you for listening to my Screencastify, and have a great day.